welcome to this community call. We've kind of slightly changed the focus just because of some needs we have around developing our e-learning course. And we'll talk a little bit more about that over the kind of, well, obviously this tonight is focused on kind of getting some information from you so that we can build the best kind of e-learning course possible. But we'll talk a little bit about the networking, building community and networks, which was going to be the call tonight, and when we plan to do that. As always, just some practical information. If you can keep your microphone muted unless you're speaking, that would be great. We recommend using the side-by-side Zoom settings during the presentation just for kind of easy viewing. And feel free to use the chat function or to raise your hand, use the raise your hand icon at any point, and Hillary will kind of let me know if anything's coming up just because I can't see it from my side. But Hillary will be keeping an eye on the chat function, or if anyone actually raises their hand to ask a question, or you can speak up as well. Like, you know, if you have a question at any point, feel free to just turn your mic on and ask a question. So as always, the community call is also being recorded and the replay will be made available afterwards. So if you would like not to be part of or in the video, you can turn your video call off, your video off as well. And then you can also make use of the closed captioning as needed. So you should be able to select the transcript and for closed captioning if you prefer to have that throughout the call. So our community objectives for our community calls specifically, we want to create a friendly and tolerant community that is safe for everyone. We want these spaces to be a place where we can come together and learn from one another. And we aim to create a community space where everyone is welcome, accepted, and valued for their own knowledge, skills, and background and experience equally. So everyone is valued the same here. Try and create a kind of non-hierarchical space. And on that topic, actually, we're going to kind of discuss some of that kind of non-hierarchy and how to create a truly like non-hierarchical space within this community when we look at when we do the building community and networks call. So yeah, we'll be diving into that just a little bit more to help us achieve that goal. Thank you for all of you that are our members. We appreciate your support very much. If you're interested in finding out about our membership and some of the rewards you can get from our membership as well, Hillary will just pop the link into the chat and you can take a look. This month, or every month, we offer a raffle. And this month, it's a denim tailored shipyard chore jacket, which is donated by Regine Denim, which is a company based in Glasgow, where I live, retailing at £180. If you are a member, you're automatically entered into the raffle. You can also purchase a raffle ticket through the membership, or you can enter the raffle by taking our survey, which you may or may not have seen already through all of our socials. We're currently doing a survey to get your feedback about the e-learning course. We have been kindly offered either extra small or medium, but we recognize not everyone fits into that size. That's just what Regine had available in the size they were offering us for the raffle. But if someone who doesn't fit within that kind of size category wins a raffle, we will look at purchasing a style and size that fits you as well. So we're just to make sure that we're size inclusive in our raffle. So it might not be this specific garment, but we will make sure that you receive something that you like and that fits you. So quite an exciting raffle this month. And we thank very much Regine, Siobhan at Regine for this donation. Also, just a reminder, we now have a community directory. So if you've not added yourself, please do. Everyone is welcome to add yourself, whether you're a home sewer, you're a student, you're someone just interested in zero waste, and you might want to connect with other people. Hillary will put the link in the chat function, or the chat bar, sorry, and please do add yourself. We really want to kind of grow our online community directory. We also have a zero waste pattern library. So if you're interested in looking for zero waste patterns, this is the place to come. If you design or make zero waste patterns, please add your pattern. We want to build the kind of go-to database for zero waste patterns, or library for zero waste patterns. So please do add your patterns here as well, but great resource for anyone looking to make or understand more about kind of design and zero waste. So tonight, the call, our aim from our perspective is to learn more in depth about what you guys want from our zero waste design e-learning. And for you, we wanted to keep that kind of community element somewhat that we talked about previously in the kind of building community and networks community call we'd originally planned. So we want you guys to engage and have the opportunity to talk with one another. And also to inform the kind of build of the e-learning course to suit your needs. So, right, so we will be planning the Building Community and Networks community call, potentially for June, but it's just something we've had to push off slightly because I'm not sure if we've mentioned, or you may have heard previously or seen, but we're actually going to be getting together as a team at Cove Park in Scotland. It's an artist residency centre, and we're going to be getting together for a team in person for the first time, which is very exciting. And we're going to be filming our e-learning course during that time, and as well as some kind of promotional videos for zero waste, including a crowdfunding video, which we'll be sharing more about soon. But yeah, we basically, just with the e-learning course coming up, we just needed to kind of redirect the priority on the community calls. So we absolutely plan to do the Building Community Networks, but most likely it will be kind of June or onward. In May, we're actually thinking it would be best to kind of engage with you around the what we end up filming and building like live during our time at Cove Park. So we're going to just launch a poll because we're really interested in knowing from you whether you know, when we're all together, we want to be getting some of your feedback about what we're working on at Cove Park. And would you prefer to engage with us kind of through a Zoom call like this, or would you prefer an Instagram live as a kind of different format for a call? Oh, and I didn't actually introduce myself, which I tend to do at the very start. So if you're new to Zero Waste Design Online, my name is Cassandra Boulanger, and I am the community activation lead and community education lead here. So helping kind of lead the development of the e-learning course and the kind of community engagement. But we also have Hillary on the call tonight, who's a community activator, and I'll let her say a quick hello.
Hi everyone, lovely to see some familiar faces from last time. It's mad that it's actually been a month since I started, or was in the first call that I've been in of this. So it's been an exciting month, and really excited to see what you guys want the e-learning course to look like. Can anyone just give?
Also here, who's one of our co-founders. I'll just let Danielle say hello while Hillary.
Yeah, hello. I feel like I've seen all of you before at some point, but Danielle Elsener, working from home today in New York. Clay, my husband, is running the factory today. Yeah, hi.
If you don't know, Danielle last autumn launched a zero waste manufacturing factory in Brooklyn, New York, which is what she's referring to. Is very exciting. You can follow her work on Decode on Instagram as well. Is it Decode Code?
It's Decode. It's way too long and very confusing. Yeah, it's been that way for so long now. I'm like, do I stick by it or do I change it so people can find it easier?
You prefer Instagram or you prefer Zoom? Just pop it in the chat and then we can look and count up in the chat afterwards. And then the other thing we wanted to ask you is, and maybe actually we can look at polls, and we're just interested in always knowing your background, just to know who's attending the community calls as well. So whether you're a home sewer, you're a designer, you're an academic, you're from industry, you're a pattern cutter, if you can also just put in the chat, and if you can't find it or whatever the chat function, if you're on the phone and it's a bit annoying, you can also just speak up and say, and we can kind of record it, pop it in the chat. Then we'll look at it afterwards. Okay, so I am actually going to just stop sharing. Give me a second here. I'll just close so I can see all of you as well. Put you in gallery. Great. So what we want to do first is have a breakout room so you can all kind of meet each other and have a bit of a discussion, because I think a big part of these community calls is actually you getting to know each other and kind of community engagement, community support, etc. So we're going to put you into breakout rooms, about 4 people or so. I think we've got 15 people, so 3 to 4 people per breakout room. And if you just want to introduce yourself, you know, maybe where you're from and what your background is, like, yeah, what kind of category do you fit into, home sewer, etc. Anything else you think is valuable you want to share. So I'm going to put you into breakout room now. It's going to be 10 minutes. And then we're going to jump back into the call and start having a bit of a discussion around our e-learning course. So engage with more of the community. So what we want to do next is just have a bit of a group discussion. And if you feel comfortable, it would be really nice if you just unmute yourself and kind of ask a question through your video, but please feel free also, if you'd prefer, to use the chat function as well, and I can read out your response. But what we want to know as part of this group discussion, what we want to hear from you is, what are your learning objectives for zero waste design? So what are your goals? What are your aims? What do you want to kind of end up with? So particularly if you're thinking about taking an e-learning course from us, what do you want the end goal to be? So if anyone wants to kind of share their thoughts on that. I can see Jane's mentioned oh, she's sharing a link. Whoever was in Jane's group, she's shared a link there as well. But Claire, did you want to?
I think for me, it would be around confidence.
Okay.
So I'd want to feel confident that I knew what I was talking about when I'm talking to other people about zero waste and zero waste design. Mm-hmm. And I think the confidence might come through, as I was saying in our little group, background as a home sewer. So I think my confidence would come in knowing a little bit more about the theories, which I probably may know more of than I think, mm-hmm. but I may not as well. So I think probably the confidence, which comes through skill, comes through knowledge.
Yeah. Thank you, Claire. That's really helpful. You can raise your hand like this if you want, or use the raise hand function. Jane?
Oh, hello. I'd really like to know more about using maybe Illustrator or designing using what computer programs would be great to use, really. Things like that.
So we definitely plan eventually to do courses on this. So Clo 3D is the program that we use the most. And yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to think about Illustrator in the context of zero waste design. It'd probably be something Danielle and Mylène in particular could think about. But what we are interested also to know, because we're looking for like core, what's going to be the core structure of our initial class, but then we're planning on building an e-learning platform. So we're going to be building on that and knowing, like, that's the first time I've actually heard someone bring up Illustrator in the context of zero waste. So that's could be like a really interesting kind of elective or something. So
it may just be that I'm being quite lazy because it feels like I know a little bit about that, but I don't have to start from scratch. But maybe you know, it'd be better for me to learn what, you know, it's more important.
I would love a course on Illustrator that was specific to zero waste design, like, you know, to use it optimally for, you know, I'm not very good on Illustrator myself. It's not something I've committed enough time to learning, but I would, yeah, I think it's a great, really cool idea. So thank you for sharing. Is there anyone, is it Zoe, did I just see you raise your hand?
Yeah, I was going to raise my hand and then I was like, oh, I might have done it with my hand just by moving my phone. Yeah, so hi, I'm in London. I'm Zoe. I think what I would love, because I teach, I suppose, in general about materials and their usage, I think would be really interesting to have maybe resources per theme that I'm assuming you'd share anyway. But it did, thinking about the usage of, like, say, Clo 3D and Illustrator, and there's quite a few other even open source pattern set softwares that you can use. And I think even even if it wasn't like a specific course, I'm gonna have a cat coming out right next to me, a kitten who's very curious. Hi everyone, this is Nora. That I think that even just having the resources to maybe finding those tutorials, and maybe that's something that the community builds, would be really good to have different resources that would be shared as part of the e-learning. And maybe I find those kind of packs, and if they can grow in an organic way, you know, that people are able to share, and it's not just something that is, I find with a lot of online resources that they're quite static and then they don't change, and that, or they don't get linked up. That's one of the biggest problems, that it's hard to share continuously. But I guess also maybe I'm also a home sewer, a home textile, you know, maker, and I think that having that confidence that you can also then teach, or maybe there's a, you know, one of the e-learning is to be able to teach what you've learned and just how you would communicate that to others. That might be quite a good good part of it, but that's what I can think of at the moment.
That is also definitely an elective we plan to eventually do, is like how to teach zero waste. That is on our radar for sure. So it's good, just good to know that, something that people are definitely interested in. Just mention as well, if you want some really good resources around zero waste, Liz Haywood's newsletter is great. I find it really helpful in just like finding interesting things that are happening. So I don't know, Liz, if you want to pop your like subscription to your newsletter or something into the chat, it's a really great resource for that moment. I see, I'm going to take two more. So I'm going to, Martha, I think was first, and then we'll do Lyndall, and then we'll finish up this discussion, move on to the next. So Martha, if you want to ask your question or give us your feedback, sorry.
Yeah, it was more of a thought that I would love to see emphasis being put on community outside of textiles and fashion. Because, for example, when I was living in New York, I was working with the Department of Solid Waste. They had a lot of wood. And so I worked on creating a collection of clogs using a lot of what we consider to be waste are just resources that don't have a home. Yeah. So, and then just reaching out to the community completely, because we can learn so much from non-fashion people, non-sewing people. So that would be community building, and sort of what is the ecosystem? What are the assets? Doing an asset mapping of the community. So just a suggestion.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting even to do within our community and see what kind of resources and knowledge we have outside of fashion and textiles. So that's really
I'd be happy to help put it together, some ideas like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, we're always looking for, if you have ideas, you want to come in and like work with our community. If you were wanting to do a community call around that or something.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good way for me to test drive my ideas, because I also teach English. I kind of left working as a designer, and I teach English as well as working with local fiber producers. So it's always a good opportunity to put together sort of a lesson plan.
Yeah.
So I mean, on a volunteer basis, I'd be happy to do that. So.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Lyndall, if you want to share as well.
Yeah. I forget who said it, but somebody mentioned the word theory. And for me, that's something like that I would love to see in a course. And like, I feel like I understand dresses and skirts and tops and the theory behind them pretty well, but like pants confuse the heck out of me. I just don't understand the concept of pants in general. And then how do we like translate pants into zero waste? Like that seems really intimidating to me. So talking about the theory of like how fabric lies on the body and how to make it a flat piece of fabric fit a strangely shaped three-dimensional human. Like with all of the different curves and corners and stuff that we have. So something like just really strong, like garment theory and design theory.
Yeah, great. Just kind of understanding the kind of flat to form element. And we do have some of this planned for the eLearning course, so that's very good to hear that.
Because then from there, then it can be easier to translate into zero waste, like because I have some background in sewing and pattern design, I can look at patterns and figure out how that would be zero waste if it's for like a top or a dress, but I cannot do it for pants.
Yeah. I think, pants can be quite challenging as well. But no, that's very helpful. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is I'm actually going to just share with you the kind of e-learning mapping what am I trying to say? Mapping user journey of our kind of e-learning, and share the Miro board with you so you can see some of our thoughts. And I'm going to share how we kind of got to the core structure of what we're going to teach. And then I want to get your feedback on, is this kind of what you would like to see, or is it missing things, or, what are your thoughts? So I'm going to just share my screen again. On Monday, fortunately, I got to work with Holly in person, which is, I think, the first time I've seen Holly since September 2020. I don't know if I know we've mentioned this previously, but the five of us, so the four co-founders and Hillary, we've never actually met in person apart from Holly and I think, and Danielle and Mylène have met briefly at a conference, but we're getting together for the first time in May to meet in person, which is quite exciting. But my son is Dutch, which means I go over to the Netherlands quite regularly, and it kind of couples quite well with seeing Holly as well. So I was over there visiting family, and also spending some time with Holly. It was Holly's birthday on Saturday, which was nice to be there for that as well. And yeah, all day Monday, basically, we spent some time looking at trying to figure out what is the core of what we need to teach. So this very intro course that hopefully everything else will kind of branch off of. And as we've mentioned, we currently have our survey that we're running until the end of the day today to try and get feedback from the community to learn more, again, about what you want, what your expectations are, what you hope to get from an e-learning course. And where we kind of started on Monday was by downloading some of the data from the survey, specifically for one kind of user category of what we're thinking for our e-learning course, from home sewers. So at the time of downloading this on Monday, which is about halfway through our survey, I think we've got around 165 responses right now, which is great. But this was the response to the question, what is the core knowledge you want from a zero waste design e-learning course specific to home sewers? And what I did is I just took all of these responses and looked for kind of categories that I could file them into. And what was really interesting in this exercise was to see that home sewers really, you can tell me as well from your home sewing perspective, but what came out is that home sewers actually do want to learn to design zero waste patterns, which was a bit surprising to me because I've been teaching home sewers for the last 10 years. And although you do have home sewers that want to be more creative and learn and stuff generally, and maybe it's because it's in the context of teaching a class, and often people who come to a class want to be taught, therefore wanting to explore maybe within that context is a bit less so. But I was surprised to see that home sewers want to learn to design patterns. And this is actually really helpful knowledge to us because you can kind of see some of the responses. I'll just zoom in a little bit if you want to see them. But because that brings our kind of home sewing category or user a little bit more, like a little bit closer to the designer or to the industry or to the student who also would be designing. And so this was helpful in the context of okay, well, if we're teaching how to design a garment, this is also going to be applicable to home sewers. Maybe not every home sewer wants, but at least those home sewers who do want to learn to design will find this e-learning course useful. So we then started with basically these different flowcharts with each category of kind of users. So we've got home sewer, I'll just get a little bit closer so you can see. So we've got home sewers, we've got designers, small brands, and students in one kind of category, and then we've got industry in another. And we kind of started by identifying kind of aims and motivations for each, and then kind of looking at different potential like learning journeys for a home sewer. So a kind of pick and mix, maybe like choose your own adventure sort of style e-learning course, making a zero waste wardrobe specifically, or designing for yourself. So these were kind of 3 themes that were starting to come out from home sewers. And we defined those, and then started thinking about what was core to each of these potential threads of an e-learning course, and what was more like elective, for example. And we did the same thing for each user journey. So the kind of darker pink is core, and the lighter pink is more of kind of potential elective. So we did that again for each, and then we're then able to start to see kind of common threads between each user journey, what was kind of core to each. So if we were able to plan, if we're going to plan an e-learning course that's going to serve the home sewer, the student, the designer, and industry to an extent, not so much big corporate industry, which is kind of another space, but kind of smaller industry. We kind of started to see some themes come out. And so from this, we identified a core structure. This is obviously just generally important for the development of our e-learning course, but at this point we are meeting in 3 weeks at Cove Park, and we need to know what we need to film, what's going to be filmed during this week, who's going to film, etc. And this is basically what we've got to now. I realize theory is not necessarily written in here, and actually I'm probably going to just add that as kind of part of this module. So basically these are each modules here, and each module would have chapters within it. So we've got a general introduction and then a course introduction, theory, and also looking at historical and contemporary examples, and then a general kind of introduction to zero waste design methods. And then within methods, we have systems, geometric cutting, making space, which is what we were talking about, like really understanding flat to form and how to create space for a body within textile, pattern blocks, so working from existing patterns to make them zero waste, draping, and then hybrid, which for those of you who may already work with zero waste, you'll know that hybrid kind of methods are often more successful than just kind of sticking within one specific method. So look at how to mix the different methods together. And then what we recognized as particularly, I mean, for all, but home sewers are asking, what are your challenges is altering or making garments that fit, because not all zero waste patterns are size inclusive, for example, and not all zero waste pattern. I mean, it's just like a conventional pattern. You still have a body that probably has a different measurement, or you might have a cup size that's different shape to what the zero waste pattern was designed for. And you can't grade or size a zero waste pattern the same way you can size or grade a conventional pattern. And so it's very important that you know how to do that. In order to have a successful zero waste garment that you're designing yourself, you need to know how to make it fit your body. And you also may want to know how to make it in multiple sizes. You might want to know how to take an existing pattern that's smaller or larger than your size and shift it to a different size. And you have to do that by design. So it's learning how to grade and size by design. So that would be a module, and then finishing with actual construction. So kind of construction methods that are specific to zero waste. So it's not like a whole sewing course. We expect that you have basic knowledge of sewing, but that we would teach you the basic construction skills you need that help with zero waste garments, and then look at specifically finishings as well for zero waste garments. So my job now at this point, and hopefully getting some of your feedback as well, is going to be to take, and I've got a bit of a start on it, but take each of these modules and then break them down into chapters. So a kind of objective what is the goal of the chapter, working backwards and making sure that everything included within that chapter is going to meet that kind of goal for the overall module. And so I'm kind of now breaking down each of these modules into specific chapters. And this is what's going to tell us, this is what we need to film at Cove Park. But before I get any further on that, and actually I'm just going to pop a screenshot of this into the chat. So this is our ideal. It's quite possible we're not going to have time to film all of this as well. And it'd be interested to know out of this, you know, specifically the different design methods, if there was one thing that you maybe were less interested in, what could we drop? But also, does what I've just shown you, and specifically this, our ideal or our core structure that we've identified through this process, does it meet your objectives? Is this what you expected? Is it completely different? We would absolutely love to get your feedback. So I'm going to stop sharing now, go back to gallery view, and yeah, you can put your hand up or just as previous. It'll be interesting to get Danielle's thoughts as well, because this is the first time she's seen this since we worked on it on Monday. But yeah, if anyone from the community to start with wants to share. This looks great. It's a lot of information to take in as well. I know it's a lot. It's a lot. I thought it would just be interesting though to show you a bit of the kind of process we're going through to like try and meet your needs and understand your needs and plan, you know, the structure of the course itself. Did you find it interesting seeing that? Is that interesting to you? Yeah. Okay, cool. And actually Liz has been meeting with us a bit and helping us work through some of this kind of user journey stuff as well. So thank you, Liz, for your time in doing that too. Yeah, I think Tulika, did I say your name, pronounce your name properly?
Yeah, Tulika. Yeah. Hi, I'm from India. The course looks very interesting and it's very intensive. It covers everything and it's going to be very helpful. I just had a couple of questions, like you were talking about different consumers, right? So homesewers or students or designers and then industry. So will the course be a little bit different from for all of these, or would it be taken by all of us together?
So it would be the same at the moment, the way that we're planning it. It's like we're going to look into an option of a kind of choose your own adventure. Like we have to look at our e-learning platform, Thinkific, that we're using, and if there's a structure where you could kind of add, I want to learn this and this, and how you would pay for that. And that's something we're going to look at. But at the moment, the way we're planning it, without kind of knowing if that's possible, is that it will be the same course. And what we've tried to do is identify, if you're a home sewer, you're a student, what is like, what would we be able to like kind of all encompass from each perspective as a kind of first course, which we then kind of branch out. So after this course, we'll be getting more of your feedback and go, what do you specifically want to learn now for a home sewer? And you know, that branches off from next. But yeah, this course specifically, just one course, hopefully meets a majority of the interests among different users or different parts of our community.
Right. So would these courses be uploaded on the website where we would take them or subscribe for them, or would they be held like a webinar?
So we're going to basically integrate an e-learning platform into our website. So there'll be, you know, like e-learning link at the top of our website. You click on that, you'd probably be taken, eventually we'll have lots of different courses and you'll be able to choose what course, and then you'd purchase that course. We're, you know, asking in the surveys like how you want, you know, whether you want to purchase like a one-time purchase, subscription, etc. We're looking at different options, but then you would have access to that course for life, basically. And it would be through the website, and it would be set up so that you kind of work, you could jump about if you want, you don't have to like start from the beginning, go right through, but it's like there'll be lectures, there'll be activities that you do that you follow along with us, there'll be little like quizzes to check, you know, that you've learned from, you know, your understanding at the end of the chapter. There'll be different kind of elements to support learning basically through it. But yeah, it'll be through our website, and we use Thinkific is the platform we plan to use for e-learning.
And if we have any doubts through the course, where can we go?
So if you like any questions, like if you're taking the course and you, so we'll have kind of like an online, there'll be like a little forum basically on the bottom of each chapter. You'll be able to ask questions at the end of the chapter. And those questions, this is what we're planning, hopefully, you know, we're still have all the builds to do, but and those questions would be viewable by the community and also us. So what we want is the community to come in and ask and like engage with each other as well, because we're, you know, there's lots of experts or people with lots of knowledge about zero waste within the community. So you'd be able to kind of post in the community forum, or you could email us directly, the tutors, the 4 of us that will kind of be keeping an eye on the e-learning platform. So you'll always have a way of asking questions, and we'll probably over time build a like Q&A, the common questions that might directly answer some of these things. And if not, we'll always be answering them for you.
Thank you so much. That's very wholesome.
Lyndall, I see your hand up.
Okay, there, now we're unmuted. It looks really good, very comprehensive. Yeah, I was looking over it and I'm like, I don't think there's anything here that I would add. And then I thought of something. I was thinking about talking about fabric and textiles, and understanding different kinds of fabric, different kinds of properties, especially since this is a basic course, like not every home sewer has an understanding of like how different fibers work, how different fabrics drape, what you can get away with on certain fabrics, what you can't get away with. What's the difference between a knit? What can you do with a knit versus what can you do with a woven fabric? That sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's very important information to have, and we'll probably refer to it a little bit within the context of like garment construction and stuff. But I think probably for this, we don't have the time to like invest in that wider kind of resource of knowledge. But I think what is a really good point is what we'll try and do is we'll try and link resources. And I know that there'll be lots of great courses out there on like, well, you know, whether it's Domestika or Craftsy, or like we'll find some resources and say like, or some blog posts and stuff and say, if you're new and you don't understand fabrics, then we recommend that you read this first. Eventually we'll build this in. Like we would love to have this kind of all-encompassing space for this, but being so limited to time, we want to focus on just zero waste, like, you know, specific to zero waste. And then but I think like for those of you that take the course as well, it'd be really helpful for you to tell like, oh, I had a gap in this knowledge that I didn't realize, because like, you know, having that information will be very helpful for us in building the resources. Or you might even in the forum go, I found this a bit difficult because I didn't understand this. Here's a link to, you know, something for anyone else wondering, but that will help us kind of to fill the gaps over time as well. But that's very helpful. So thanks for sharing that, Lyndall. Maybe take one more question on this kind of topic. And I see Claire, their hand up. Or sorry.
Yeah, it's a follow-on really from Lyndall's point about understanding that this course won't be able to go into the fabrics. In our little group, we were talking about Martha was talking about her experience and trying to move away from oil-based, petroleum-based fabrics. So I think it would be really good to have that sort of ethical context around zero waste. Can work in so many different ways. Obviously, if you've got a bit of plastic fabric, you know, in your polyester in your stash, then use it, obviously. But when we're making choices, I think it would be really, even myself who's got a lot of experience around sewing, I still, you know, the hemp, the linen, the bamboo, I know that this course couldn't cover all of that, but I think good signposting to places that are trustworthy around. So when we're going to fabric shops and we say to somebody it's closed loop, for example, we fully understand what we're talking about, because we might know more, we probably will know more post doing a course like this than somebody selling us the fabric.
Yeah.
And then if we start asking for closed loop, if we start asking for hemp, really understanding what linen is, linen really more you know, like, I don't know. So yeah, good signposting to those, so we can make positive ethical choices, but really know that we can back it up with our own. And I know that's not going to, everybody's not going to want to need that, but I think for me, that's another real big area of real gap. I know the course wouldn't do it, but signposting to where we might have trustworthy sources would be fantastic.
Yeah. Bond Textiles is actually a really great resource, like lots of educational stuff on their website. They're based in Glasgow.
What's it called?
Bond, their website's just BAWN. Bond
oh
Textiles.
yeah, no, absolutely. I haven't bought from them yet. Great.
And even just for educational stuff, like they kind of go through different, there's a listing of different kind of sustainable materials and
fantastic
about it. And yeah, I think that's going to be really vital, like we say, just again filling these gaps where it's like, just it's very helpful to have knowledge on ethics or sustainability in this in order to really do this well. So we've just got 4 minutes left, but like as per usual, we always go over these sessions, and you can if you need to run in 4 minutes, please feel free to log off, and you can watch the replay after or share any thoughts with us through DMs on Instagram or email or whatever. But we'll just kind of continue on and try and aim to wrap up by in about 20 minutes at the latest, but please feel free if you have to run to run. But the last kind of group discussion we wanted to have is around the make use system, because we wanted to talk about kind of systems. And you may know there's basically 2 existing zero waste systems that we know of at the moment. There's the make use system of user modifiable zero waste garments that Holly McQuillan developed at Massey University with a team. It's all open source. And then there's the Decode pattern master system, which is what Danielle developed through her master's at RCA. We want to talk about systems in the context of this course. And what we were thinking is using the make use system as a kind of approach, because it's open source as well. You can download all of the patterns, and we can explain a lot of the different kinds of methods through the Decode system as well. But I want to know, have you used the make use system? Do you know about it? And if you have used it, if you've used it just as information, education, or you've made any of the patterns, what has been your experience? And like, what would you like to learn about it through the eLearning course? So I don't know if there's anyone here who's used it before. Yeah, Claire's nodding her head. Zoe, you asked the links. Are you referring to the links for make use and Decode?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'll get Hillary, or Danielle can pop in, or is she just gone? I think Danielle might have just left. I'll put.
I think I've got the Danielle's one, but I don't have Holly's one.
I can pop it in. I'll pop it in. If your experience might just be through some of our like live classes, like learning to use the make use top, or because we teach from it a lot. I mentioned that to Danielle about putting something up, but yeah, anyways, the links are there. Has anyone here? Oh, Danielle, you're back.
Sorry, I have to keep taking care of the dog.
Oh, it's okay. No problem.
I'm here. What's up?
We're just talking about make use and Decode, zero waste systems. And well, do you have a link anywhere that kind of explains the Decode pattern master system? Like on your website or anything?
I do. Let me just find it. It might have been an old version of my website. Let me check.
Okay, cool. While Danielle's checking, so has anyone here kind of independently ever gone to the Make Use website? Marketa, and yeah, a lot of people. And when you've gone, what have you gone for?
So Yeah, so I've looked at the website. I have the Zero Waste Design book from Holly's and Timo's, and I think what I struggle with mostly is going from the concept, which the concept seemed deceivingly simple, really, because I mean, there's a cloth and then certain lines in it and the way you, but is to actually do it physically, take that piece and cut it up and do it. And that's where there's like this blockage for me personally, where I find like if, like we did with the Liz once, I think, was with the little cutout pieces of paper and then folded it, then physically I was able to do something because we were all doing it together.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I look at the images and I just don't have the courage to sort of try it on my own cloth for some reason. And I mean, that's just maybe my but yeah, I think for a lot of, maybe I'm not the only one that struggles to actually put something into concrete action.
Yeah, I mean, I think Holly herself recognizes that gap within what is available on the website. It was meant to kind of coincide with live workshops and an exhibition, and it was basically a website that was built off the back of this big project she did at Mass University. So if you experience a website alongside the workshops and the exhibition, then you'd have those gaps filled in. But the website itself has a lot of gaps in it in that space. And that, you know, that's what we've been using as a base to kind of teach from for the last, well, Holly's been doing it since she developed it in 2016, but I've been teaching from it, and Mylène, and I don't know if you've ever taught from Make Use, Danielle, but I know Mylène and I, yeah, I mean, you have your own kind of systems that you've developed as well. So yeah, but what we're planning as part of the course is that we'll talk about each garment. We'll look at the what's called the parametric grid, so how your body fits into that space of the pattern, how to draft it to measurements basically, and then how to make it up in paper. And then you'll kind of understand the basics of the construction, or the kind of makeup, or I guess construction in some ways, a bit kind of loose when it's paper. But then later, when we look at garment construction, you'll know any specific techniques you might need to make that specific. So there won't be time for us to basically show you how to make each garment, and it will be different depending on what kind of journey you go on with that specific garment. But hopefully this e-learning course would fill in all the gaps, and we won't only be using just Make Use garments. We'll probably use Danielle's decode shorts and look at some other patterns as well. But it's a really good kind of system to start understanding that flat to form and historical context, and how, you know, contemporary use, and yeah, so lots of other comments I see in the chat. Is there anyone else that wanted to kind of share their thoughts on Make Use or experience of it? I mean, I'd be curious to know, Liz, in your kind of understanding of and how you've developed your knowledge in zero waste design, was Make Use part of that for you?
I had a look at it, and I could understand the concepts. I could see that I get what you mean, Marketa, about the jump between the theory and then actually cutting into the fabric and doing it. And I do know from pattern writing that I find zero waste patterns need more kind of hand holding, because the shapes are so unfamiliar looking.
Yeah.
That it's like you need extra instructions than you would for a regular pattern. But yes, I looked at Make Use, and I looked at any other kind of cutting layouts I could find anywhere.
Yeah.
And I've made I don't think I actually made anything from Make Use, but I made spiral trousers, which are on there but not on there.
Yeah, it is part of Make Use, but it's slightly separate, and it doesn't have the same parametric grid system as the other garments do. But it was, yeah, but it is officially part of it. The pattern is just not, if anyone wants the trouser pattern, it's not available on the Make Use website, but we can send it to you. So just get in touch with us. Great, thanks for sharing those. Okay, we'll try and wrap up in the next kind of 5 minutes or so, but if there's any,
I think is that a fresh hand from Lyndall? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't notice that it was up earlier, and so yeah. There's something about the Make Use pattern that intimidates me. And I have a double major diploma in apparel technology. So like I have college level courses in sewing, and it feels really academic and like master's level kind of stuff. So it looks intimidating to me, and then my brain kind of just goes blah and like shuts down. So yeah, I don't know. I think there is that gap, that it feels like it's something that I have to be smarter than I am to be able to understand. Which is, I'm sure it's an erroneous conception. And I'm sure it's really like, it's cool and not that hard to grasp, but it just feels like that. So if there's some way to take down that intimidation factor,
yeah,
I don't know how, but I think that would be really helpful. And just the fact that it's in a course and it's step by step and it's taught, like that's a lot easier than just here's the website and go.
Yeah. And it's not just you. I mean, I've had Holly herself teach me all of it, and there's bits I just don't understand and have to constantly ask her to tell me again how this works, or like, they're meant to be understood in the context of workshops and things like that. So yeah, there's just those kind of, it's not just you. So they're challenging, some of them in particular, challenging to understand without really thorough instructions. We keep talking about zero waste patterns, and I am very excited to start developing actual zero waste sewing patterns as part of what we offer. And hopefully the Make Use patterns will be part of that, as well as Danielle's Decode Pattern Masters, that will be able to offer them as sewing patterns for home sewers or anyone who wants to make a garment from them, but be, handheld through the process. So it makes it more accessible. But that's really helpful. Because that intimidation factor can just kind of completely hold you back from even trying something. So making it feel accessible and realistic and doable and all these things is really important.
Cassandra, I didn't actually feel like I didn't try the spiral trousers until I saw Holly demonstrate them in paper on the computer, and I saw someone else had made them too. But I actually, they weren't that hard, but I just sort of needed that extra confidence boost or something.
I mean, the pattern is very unconventional. When like a triangle for a tube is the basic concept of the spiral trousers. But if you've never thought in that way, like you would just look at it and just think, what is this? Like, I remember the first time I looked at it and I was just like, I cannot, what? So I think that's probably most people's experience, is that.
Also, there's a reluctance to cut into your fabric if you think you're going to have to do too much tweaking.
Yeah.
Because you want it to be a dead certainty.
Yeah.
That it's going to work, rather than have to go through lots of fabric to get it right if you're not sure about it at the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that maybe was what held me back as well. I thought, am I gonna nail it first go?
I find it particularly home sewers are so used to following like instructions. So to like explore is quite intimidating as well, particularly from a home sewing perspective. But yeah, hopefully we can kind of make it more accessible and less intimidating and all of that. I've just before we close, I've just put the screenshot back in the chat. I'm curious to know, out of the specific design methods, and you may or may not understand what each of them are, and that's okay, you can ask if you need to know as well, but you know, if we were, for example, only to cover, had the time to cover, so there's, if we kind of use the put the make use system aside, so we've got geometric cutting, making space, pattern blocks, draping, and then probably would include, so out of those four, geometric cutting, making space, so understanding like space for the body, working from a zero waste pattern block, or working from an existing pattern, or draping. Out of those, if you had to choose two, what would be your top two you'd want to be part of this course?
Say them again.
So there's geometric cutting, so blocks, working with squares and triangles, and there's working from an existing pattern. There's making space, so just understanding how to create like tubes and, you know, how to create space for the body, and then draping. So I don't know if yeah, we're some Hillary and everyone's popping that in, that's very helpful. So, or even if you could just tell me what your number one would be, and we can, because it's quite possible we're not going to have time to film all of this during the week, and we want to know what people are most interested in. Maybe this is the first time you've heard these methods as well, and it's, you know, new to you completely. But what sticks out to you? What's most interesting? You can either speak up or just put it in the chat as well. Jane?
I was just going to say the pattern blocks and making it zero waste feels like it's more kind of a step that was more understandable, because if you're starting with pattern blocks,
yeah,
as a sewer, you might understand a lot more, and then changing it into zero waste, you can start to get your head around where the difference is.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless I've totally misunderstood what.
No, no, you got it right. That's yeah, that's great. Thank you. I think probably as time, you know, if we once I break down these modules into like specific chapters, and we understand how much each chapter is going to take, and we'll be able to then have a better idea of what we'll have time for. And we might just do some polls on Instagram or something, just to like, you know, list these and get feedback as well. So you can keep an eye out for any kind of us looking for feedback over the next 3 weeks as well. But yeah, so is Martha, are you raising your hand? Yeah, I want to say something for.
It's just a quick question. I kind of hesitated because I feel like I really need to do my homework. But I was wondering, because I've heard Claire and others talk about how you start with paper, and I wondered if there's a reason why one doesn't start with like create muslins, or you know, it could be out of, as somebody mentioned using old bed sheets, but just to have like a fabric based paper pattern that you can then go back to and use, especially for things that sound very complicated, like the spiral trousers, because paper is waste as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't drape the same way as the fabric would.
Yeah, so. Yeah. I guess the reason I've used paper samples is because I learned from Holly, and Holly used paper samples, and as part of her design process, it's always, so I can never remember what it's called. Maybe someone knows, but Holly has this thing where she can't basically imagine, she can't see pictures in her brain. I can't remember what it's called. But basically aphantasia. Thank you, Wendell. Yeah. So part of her design process is she needs to see how something works, because she can't imagine it. Even though she understands 2D and 3D, she can't imagine what it might look like. So she has to make it. So she's always just worked in paper samples. Claire, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, just to say, because you can do it small and quick. Yeah. So we're not talking about full-size paper, although knock yourselves out if you want to do that, but A4 and then or A5, and it's really small, and like just cut a triangle and make a trouser leg from your triangle after this webinar, and then have a look at Liz's amazing spiral trousers that she's wearing on her website or her Instagram, I think it is. And you'll just go, oh, that's it. Oh, that's how that makes. So yeah, it's just small, it's quick.
Yeah, quick. I mean, that's the kind of, it's like quickly seeing what something looks like. And it makes it accessible to someone who doesn't know how to sew. Basically, you don't have to know how to sew to make a paper zero waste pattern and put it together. And so learning the basic kind of 2D to 3D form in paper initially is really helpful to then apply that to a fabric toile or something. But I don't know, Danielle, if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think scale is good. Like, even if you're making little fabric samples, like you're gonna either keep them as research or like process photos and understanding, so it's not waste because it's being used as part of your development. Or you do paper. I use lots of Post-it notes just to do little like mock-ups and stuff. But like, if you're learning and trying to improve, I feel like no matter what tools you use, it's getting to a better place than you were before. So that's just my theory. You can disagree with it.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we should probably wrap up because it's almost 7:20 in the UK. But thank you so much for your feedback. We still have the survey open tonight for the e-learning course. So if you've not, we'll just pop the survey link in the chat right now. And if you've not had a chance to actually fill the survey out, it's about 10 minutes or so, depending on how much other information you want to give us. But we really appreciate you filling that out and giving us kind of further feedback so that we can take your thoughts and your needs into consideration. Yeah, we'll probably be posting on Instagram in the next couple of weeks to let you know how we'll engage in May. It's not going to be a formal community call, but probably as we're working on filming, we might have questions and want feedback from you. So either we'll jump on kind of an Instagram live together and try and, engage with you a bit and tell you how things are going, or we can plan a Zoom call and just share a bit about how the week's going. But yeah, it'll be kind of less, well, not that this is overly formal anyways, but you'll hear from us at some point in May, and then we'll let you know when the next community call is, most likely in June. So thank you all for attending. It's nice to see some new faces. Lovely to meet you all. And hopefully we'll see you in the coming months. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you for all your wonderful work.
Thank you.